Welcome everyone to another episode of Association Peeps and Cubicles Drinking Coffee. I'm Bennett Napier with Partners in Association Management. And we're here in a remote location in sunny and humid Jacksonville, Florida today. And we've got a guest presenter with us, Mark Sedgley from MemberClicks out of Atlanta. Mark, thanks for being with us this morning.
Thank you.
And before we get started, we're just going to do our little plug. We've got our Italian roast coffee. Don't ask me how to pronounce it, so I'm not even going to try. But a little dark roast to get us going for our conversation. And Mark, again, we thank you for being here. MemberClicks, and you personally certainly have been a great supporter, not only for your clients that you work with, but certainly the association profession. So we want to thank you for that, being a great strategic partner for all of us. We're really going to focus on culture today. That's kind of like your brand. And just let's talk about, let's start with some new things about MemberClicks in general. Any new products or services that you've got out there that you've launched in 2019, and then we'll kind of go into the culture discussion.
Yeah, so over the last 2.5 years, MemberClicks has been doing a lot of R&D, acquisitions, and partnerships. And we do it all in alignment with our mission. Our mission is to empower member-based organizations to thrive through refreshing technology and a heart for service. And so we feel like those missions, in order for them to thrive, they need the associations that we work with and chambers that we work with need all the tools that are readily necessary for their day-to-day operations. Every association registers people for events, pays people's dues, right? Takes the dues, needs a front-end facing website, needs a member portal, but also needs continuing education and learning management. And when they go to conferences, they need a mobile app. And so MemberClicks over the last 6 months has launched several services and products that are in alignment with those needs. We have a new LMS, we have a conference app that is, FSA is using today. We also have a job board, we have a review panel, so like an abstract management software. So all the components that the day-to-day life of associations need, we're continuing to innovate on and send out to all of our MemberClicks organizations, which is over 3,000 at this point.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Certainly, in the space that you're in is highly competitive, always has been, and will continue to be so. But you've got, I guess I would say, just in terms of differentiation, kind of the secret sauce is your culture. And just kind of talk about, what that journey's been, for the company, and, where the next destination is, and how you kind of get the engagement, not only with your team, but how you kind of permeate that amongst your clients that you work with too.
Yeah, so culture was very intentional for MemberClicks when I came into the leadership position. We did a culture deck, I wrote that and was inspired by several companies like Zendesk and HubSpot. But the culture really revolves around the values, right? I think a lot of times folks get culture twisted up with environmental things like beer taps and space and collaboration, whiteboards and all that good stuff, which is part of culture. It's an outworking of culture. But at MemberClicks, we believe that culture begins and ends with our values. And so we have 7 core values that we talk about daily. We have company-wide meetings where someone gets up and talks about the values and the cultures. We give out T-shirts at the end of each month for folks that have been nominated for representing our values. And those values don't just stay internal, they go external. So when you talk about competitive differentiation, that was the goal, is we see product, we see P&L, profit and loss, and culture all equal, right? Because they all revolve around our mutual customer, right? And so our first and number one value is to be shockingly refreshing. And we want that to be a mandate for the company for our employees. So we feel like if they feel shockingly refreshed, it'll be an easy transition for them to refresh our customers. And we want our customers to feel, when they walk away from interactions with MemberClicks, to say, wow, that was great, that was different, that was more than what I needed. And I believe that's true for our vendors and our stakeholders and external constituents, our investors. We take it as a global view, not a singular view, because we feel like that will radiate over time to our industries.
With the acquisitions and just normal organic growth that you've had in terms of number of staff, how do you make that leap, if you will, with folks coming in kind of fresh to the company? And getting them indoctrinated into that, and because everybody comes at a different time point in terms of your life cycle as a company. How do you maintain that?
That's an awesome question. And it's something that we've really had to grapple with over the last 24 months in particular, because we did do 3 acquisitions. We've grown, in the last 3 years, we've grown from a 35 person organization to a 115 plus organization, 3 different geographic locations. And one of the things that when we went into that we felt had to hold, and we had to commit ourselves to was the culture still maintaining at the top. And so a couple things we did. We spent a lot of time, money, and energy to bring the new folks into our Atlanta office and inculcate them, for lack of better words, into our culture. We did a MemberClicks camp, which walked them through the history of MemberClicks, the culture deck, why we do what we do, what each one of the divisions do and how they've evolved and all that good stuff, the kind of customer we serve. We brought in folks like Lowell to come in and talk about like, hey guys, here's who you're serving. This is what we live and die by, right? This is how we breathe. We also, on top of that, made sure that we standardized everything across the board in terms of benefits, insurance, all the stuff that people kind of really get nervous about, right? The things that they should, right? These are meaningful things. And then on top of that, we created something called the Clicker Culture Council, the CCC. And the Clicker Culture Council, the whole point of that was, there's no way as we get larger that culture can come from the top down because it gets too distributed, right? You know, we have a Vancouver office, we have an Indianapolis office, we have an Atlanta office, and they all have kind of varying degrees of separation from a culture perspective, but it's all united by our values, right? And the idea behind the Clicker Culture Council was like, let's get representatives from folks who are remote, folks who are at the other geolocations, and folks that are representative across the organization in terms of function, and let them build the culture versus it coming from the top down. So I think that was really successful for us. In 2019, we were voted one of the best places to work in Indianapolis, which is where we did our largest acquisition, and they had the most disruption to their staff and their entire experience. And so I think that was representative of the fact that we took it seriously, their experience from a culture perspective, and I think that's shining through to the customer.
I mean, just in terms of, you know, just keeping on this theme, you know, I mean, just seeing you speak around the country, you know, you're living it every day internally, but then you're sharing how you do it. I mean, what your transparency is just refreshing in a sense. What, you know, what mentally got you there? Because a lot of people are scared of transparency, if you will, especially in this context. I mean, you know, what made you make that leap of faith, if you will? Because it's kind of a little scary at the beginning.
Yeah, that's a really good question. Transparency is the hardest one for everybody, I think. People like to be guarded. They like to keep things close to the vest, especially in a highly competitive world. I've always said to let the chips fall where they may. You know, there's a Mark Twain quote that said, you know, I just tell the truth all the time because I don't have to remember any lies, you know. I just paraphrase that. But I'm kind of the same way. Like, transparency is transparency. Our last value, the bookend, is shocking, refreshing, and forgiveness. And I think a lot of organizations, what they forget is you can't be a transparent, autonomous, or collaborative organization unless you have forgiveness. And so I think that's where the genesis of that came from, Bennett, is I'm a very forgiving human being because I've been forgiven, right? Over and over and over again. I like to fail fast and often so that I can get constant feedback. I learned a long time ago that I'm not ever going to be the smartest guy in the room. And so what that did for me was I got really, really comfortable wearing failures on my sleeve and showing them to people and talking to them about them, et cetera. And I think that's just permeated throughout the organization, since I really want to encourage folks to be transparent, you know, and we are transparent to our customers. We learned a huge lesson of that early on in my career, which was, and I'm going to talk about this later today in my session, you know, the entire MemberClicks platform 8 years ago went down for a week. And in terms of that, today terms, like, people freak out if it goes down for 2 minutes, right? And we were super transparent about what was going on, what we owned. Myself and my chief experience officer took all the support calls. We got this help team off the phones, and we were talking to our customers. From that, Bennett, we got more positive reviews than negative reviews externally. And we had 2 requests for refunds out of 1,400 customers being down for 7 days at the time. Yeah. And I think the only reason was we were so transparent, right, about what was happening, what we were doing, and why they were experiencing what they were experiencing.
Just a great lesson on, you know, just like you said, just in terms of how you know, we're all going to have bad days, right? In your case, a bad week. That was not fun. No. But it's just like you said, how you handle it. I mean, how, you know, the lessons that y'all learned from that, I mean, from an accountability standpoint. Like you said, I mean, you're a technology company, so it's all about innovation, and innovation. You're gonna fail. You're gonna have some wins and losses.
Sure.
You know, obviously, even, you know, from your customer standpoint, we're in a competitive market too, whether it's with other nonprofits or for-profits in some cases. How does your team in the field, if you will, kind of share some of that beyond the service piece of what you offer? Kind of almost in a consulting role, if you will. I'm sure that's happening more often. How do you handle those things now?
Yeah, so the buyers changed a lot, right? So their expectations have ratcheted up. They're much more educated than they've ever been before. And I think that just plays nicely again into all the things that we believe in culturally, which is that transparency, be collaborative. We let our folks be really autonomous in how they engage our customers. Like, we really want to equip them to solve for the customer. And so the way we do that is through the values, like, hey, be autonomous, be collaborative, be transparent, be forgiving, take it personally, work really hard, right? And at the end of the day, be really shockingly refreshing. And so what we found is as the buyers got more and more educated and the competitive field has continued to increase, the way you separate yourself is through that heart for service part, which I think is kind of like tantamount to all of our values and cultural kind of roots. And so I think we've pushed hard into that. Like, how do you differentiate in a like future parity world, for lack of better terms, from a competitive landscape standpoint? And the way you do it is just be really, really good at service and engage people at a high level and understand their needs and their problems and try and figure out a way to solve them.
Without giving away the trade secrets, what's 2020 look like for MemberClicks?
2020 is a big year for us. I keep saying that every year. It never goes away. We're going to capitalize on all the new products that we've rolled out. Like, we're learning a ton about what organizations, small and mid-sized associations, need from a learning management software, right? And it varies, right? We're rolling out more and more products that will help engage associations, and we see the convergence of continuing education and learning and career development continuing to kind of come into the strength zone of associations and their differentiation perspective with regards to like the LinkedIns of the world and social media and how people engage with each other around common interests. We think associations have a real opportunity in that kind of learning, continuing education, career development arena that the other platforms just can't provide. So you'll see MemberClicks continue to converge around those ideas and provide an awesome back-end database with better analytics so that customers can understand how to engage their members better. And then how do we continue to evolve and equip associations to better educate their members, credential their members, and then provide career development for their members. And so that'll continue to evolve over the next 12 to 18 months.
Let's close on one question. Just if somebody's, let's take the assumption that somebody's just really at this stage getting into the technology game, which hopefully they're already there, but let's say they're not. What's the one thing you would say, hey, this is from an association standpoint, this is where you got to be from a product standpoint, service standpoint, in terms of what you've integrated? One thing that you would say start with?
I mean, other than just choosing MemberClicks.
Yeah.
I think understand what you really need. There's so many competitive pulls within an association. There's the member coordinator, there's the events coordinator, membership manager, communications, executive, board. I always really kind of talk to folks about, like, really figure out what you need, because there's a lot of technology out there. And that technology is really well intended. What needs to happen is the customers that we engage with, like, what we really like to talk to them about is, what are your pain points? Let's identify the big ones, right? The 80% pain, and start there. And so most of the time, still today, Bennett, you'll be surprised. 75% of our customers are coming off of an Access or Excel file platform, so they are just engaging technology. And I think for small and mid-sized associations and for enterprise associations, they're different. Small and mid-sized associations, I always try and talk to them about, you need something under one roof, because the multiple vendor thing, onboarding new employees, got a small staff, that gets rough. Enterprise vendors is like, hey, if you got the money, time, know-how, go get best of breed and figure it out, but always start with your pain points, the why. Like, why are you trying to solve this problem? And if you do that, you'll typically find a good solution for it.
Mark, we appreciate you giving your time today and certainly throughout the year around the association community, and thank you to your team and what you're bringing to the table for our arena to make us all better each day. So thank you, Mark.
Thanks, man. I really appreciate the time.